or you can throw it here or whatever. But there's a point where you can get your sword to float as it transitions through that balance point. At that spot, I can choose to continue it through my body connection, pull it back for recovery, an early recovery that rotates that tip around, and drop it down, right? And that's all, there is no tension in my arm. It's all done by knowing that I can control it with this, which is why I come back to this. And let my body guide that flow. Relaxed, easy, no tension.
Just as a note, when Radnor came down last year for a festival, that was his big thing, was his rubric that he said.
Yes, his rubric is this concept. It starts with it. Actually, I'm really happy that I said, oh, that's really cool, I like that. That's like point C. I like to start people without swords doing this. Yeah. And he went, I like that, I'm going to steal it. I'm like, yes, he's taking something of mine. But yeah, it is that concept of starting the same, it's rolling here, and then his is to tighten up that wrap. You actually roll your wrist early, and he ends up with this C action around this foot, where it's all relaxed and flow, and it's purely just by controlling the rotation of the wrist on that. And yeah, obviously body mechanic. This sword's a little long to do it. It feels awkward when I do it because my elbow's here. I have a sword that's slightly longer than I probably need, right? But it's this action, but it's all flow, relaxed, and it's just purely about using the nuance of your wrist to roll through, right? Because then he does that when he's fighting. Yeah, this I can't translate it up there yet. He's just gold. What he does is amazing. But but it is through that relaxed position, yeah. So relaxed body. Okay. So let me check my notes. Where am I at? Rather than guessing. Any questions on any of that so far? Does that all make sense? Is that anybody? Yeah, good.
The note on tension. So when I was settling into guard, the tension I was feeling was where my weight was sitting in my feet.
Yeah.
So I could shift that a little bit and take it onto the legs. But the main thing I was feeling when I was just in guard ready, it was just on the weight of my feet. That is, like, I guess, would it be better to focus it on where you're putting your weight, or?
It's really, for me, about being aware of your tension. I mean, I hold a lot of tension in my shoulder blades, and so I do specific stretches to loosen them up before I fight.
Yeah.
I actually have now a warm-up routine that I do as I armour up, where, you know, I want to stretch out my legs and get them moving. I want to stretch out my rotators on here, so when I put my trousers on, I then put my boot on, I sit down, and I tie my boot up like this.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually here because they're high top boots, but it allows me to stretch this as I go. And so this saves me time, but I'm actually doing it while I warm up. So that's efficiency, but it means I get my stretch in. And then before I get up, I'm always here, I want to stretch things out. Now, the reason I stretch is in part to reduce physical tension, so that when I get into my armour, I have extended and stretched my body beyond what my armour will allow me to do. Because if I do it with my armour on, I can only reach the extremities of where my armour will allow me to go. Right? So there's a couple of things particularly, and this starts to relate to the breath, is when we put kidney belts and belts on, we start to restrict our ability to breathe. Okay? So we're going to move into breath, but it's really about, for me, being aware of the tension. For me, it's about being as relaxed as I physically can when I start. Mm-hmm. And then, as I fight, realising where do I need the tension. Right? I don't want the tension here, I don't want it here. I want this free, ready to move where I want to go. So I go, right, relax that, relax that, relax that. The tension will move.
Yeah.
That's what it does. Our body needs to have something tense. It just seems to want that. So if I can get it out of the places I don't want it and into other places where it really doesn't matter, like tension in my feet's useful because then I can pounce off it, whatever. But if I can reduce it in the places I don't want it, I don't want it here, I don't want it here, I don't want it here, I certainly don't want it here, right? And it will move, but if I can just every now and again be aware of that, and when you're in the midst of a fight, you're not thinking about it. It's about building the foundations underpinning that so that when you fight, it starts to happen naturally. Yeah? So, breath. I've seen videos of me fighting, and you can hear me breathing from a mile away. Yeah? So, and I don't mind that because it means I'm getting air, right? So I want to talk a little bit about breath, and just breath for me is important for relaxation and for tension release, right? What are we told to do when we're tense? When you're uptight, just breathe. Just breathe. Take a deep breath and relax, yeah? That sign of relief where you can actually release the tension is really useful, and it helps to just release tension throughout your body. So if we can use that when we fight to help reduce tension, that's a good thing. So, I've been in the midst of a fight when I realised I've been holding my breath, and I go, oh man, I've got to remember to breathe. And it becomes a mental need. Now, that's bad because it means that my mind is focused on my breath, not my opponent. So, let's very quickly, does everyone understand how breath is made? How you breathe physically? Everyone get that? Everyone know how that works? Mechanically? Yeah?
Yeah, what do you specifically sort of want to, like the diet, like technical?
Yeah, so you've got a diaphragm that's connected to your rib cage that's basically created a vacuum that when this contracts, creates a need to fill space. Like it's called contracting, but it actually gets bigger. It expands down and creates more space. A vacuum can't be empty, so it fills that by actually sucking air into your body. Yeah? So I've made a model. For anybody that wasn't aware of it, I drank a litre of iced tea yesterday to do this. Right? So imagine that this is your rib cage, this is your diaphragm, and this is one of your lungs. Right? I couldn't be bothered doing 2 straws and crap, right? But essentially, when we breathe, our diaphragm expands, and the vacuum must fill the space. And so that actually sucks air into the lung to help expand into filling out that vacuum. Yeah? So breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, breathe in. If your throat does that, that's bad. Right? But you get the idea. Right? So in order to help you be relaxed, you need to breathe. But one of the things you don't want to do is have to think about it. So one of the things that I've done over time is I've built that into a physicality, knowing that if I just do this, and my channel is open, air will go in. So if I can add that part of the mechanics into my fight, where I know that this must happen so that I get air and I'm not holding my breath, then it's a physical thing because I'm already being very physical and I don't have to worry about the mental remembrance. I don't have to mentally remember to breathe. So this is a useful thing to know so that if you're in the midst of a fight, because I've been in fights where I've gone, I'm holding my breath, I've got to breathe. All of my focus goes to my head where I'm thinking about breathing. Whereas if I get a bit tight, I can now just expand my diaphragm and air comes. And it's no longer a mental thing, it's a physical thing, which is perfect in the midst of a fight because I need to keep it physical because I need my focus, my mental focus to be on my opponent. Yeah? So that's a good thing to know. The other thing that happens is, part of the reason I think we hold our breath is because we're not used to how to deal with the tension, right? So in the midst of that fight or flight, our bodies tighten up, we're going to engage in a fight, things tense up, and in the midst of fighting an opponent, you just get tense without even realising it, yeah? So sometimes it becomes hard to breathe because we're not used to breathing through that tension. So some of the things that I've done, some things that I do, I actually have taken from my actor training, and it's foundational. So everybody jump up. You don't need your swords. This is some of the stuff that I do when I'm warming up, okay? Just to expand my breath capacity. Because again, if I do all of this before I put my armour on, I can be expanded and relaxed and, moving bigger than I'll be able to within my armour. it means that when I'm in my armour, I'm freer to do the things I want to do. So some of the things that I do to help my breath is I will stretch. Right, so everybody stretch. So you're going to get a good pelvis, nice balanced, neutral position, pelvis rolled forward so that your spine is straight, good posture, and we're going to stretch out over here. And actually feel the stretch down here, really stretch, right? Then, 3 or 4 deep breaths. Breathe as deep as you can into that stretch. Not only will it help you stretch better, you are teaching yourself to breathe through the tension. And if we can teach ourselves this, it helps. I've found personally it helps. So, other way, you'll find that it doesn't feel like your stomach is expanding as much as it normally does. You might find that it's your chest that expands to help create the space for the breath. And what you're doing is you're just helping loosen up all of the intercostal muscles through the ribs and the whole back and everything. So I will put myself into weird stretching positions. So every stretch position, if I'm rolling down here, deep breath through here and relax. Sometimes I find it creates weird twinges that I need to then stretch out because there might be a bit of a cramp or something there. And I find that not only helps me relax better before I fight, but it actually helps me when I am fighting, because sometimes you do get into weird positions and I find that I can still breathe through those spots. When I'm in the midst of a very intense fight and the body is tensing up, I can still breathe through that tension because I've taught myself to do that through my warm-up process. So, pretty much it for that. So again, I would recommend when you are warming up, I totally recommend warming up before you fight, out of armour, stretching, and I totally recommend holding stretches and breathing through the stretch a couple of times to help expand that body and get the oxygen into the muscles, and it just helps loosen you up even better, but also teaches you to breathe through the tension when you are actually fighting. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Cool. Cool. So basically, breath, understanding the use of it, like really use it, play with ways that you can relax your body, and really go back to basics. Never throw the basics away. Right? This kind of action, and then you can move, and you're going to do some of this sort of stuff. I was watching Jib's Poi class earlier. Right? This is going to translate into some of that stuff as well. He's talking about flow, and then when you go to Eva's class, you'll find some of that concept useful as it builds into final line control of where you're going and throwing shots and that sort of stuff. But for me, this is the foundation. This is what I do right at the very base of what I am as a fighter to help release tension, flow, have good, clean flow and relaxed shots that allows me to increase my speed, my skill, and all of that sort of thing. Loose wrists, for me, super important for some of those shots. That fine control, it's the ability to throw a fake that I can then roll that looks into a thrust or whatever, but understanding how to do that and my body controlling that, super important. Is any of that useful?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great, because I have no idea how it translates to other people. I want to touch on a couple of things that you can do to now manipulate that tension on your opponent. And I will flag that I have stolen all of these from Duke Branos. He was here a number of years ago, and I've watched him fight, and I've watched him teach Duke universities overseas, and there's a couple of things that he's shown people, and I'm like, yoink, thank you very much. And I've used these in fights, and they're really effective, okay? So, there's a couple of things that happen. So, Magnus, you're here, let's have that. So you guys have a seat, I'll show you this, but you get to play with it, I'll get you to play with it as well. So, get your chair out there. I'll do this without swords. So we're fighting, right? And what I'm going to do is come here, come here, come here, come here. I'm going to chase you down, right? I'm going to you just back up, right? So if you want to do a little bit of control of your opponent, use tension and the timing to do this, right? Because we know that, all right, so let's see. Let's see if this works, all right? So we're engaged, and I'm coming at you.
Okay.
So don't do it again. It's a little bit hard, so just go straight on.
Okay.
Ready? So there's this moment where I stop, and it wasn't real clean, but Brannis did it much better. It's easy to do in arm. But there's this moment when we're engaged. I'm chasing. I stop. He realises I'm not chasing. Okay, he's going to keep going. That's smart. A lot of people will do this. You chase me. Oh, stopped. So they stop. That moment of stoppage is your timing. So apply tension to the fight, force them back. You can stop. They will realise you've stopped. They will stop. You hit them. And you can do the same thing in reverse. Chase me. He goes, holy crap, he stopped. And in that moment of him stopping, I have an opportunity to hit him. Because his whole force is rocking in that moment. You use that timing break that's created by that stopping of the tension, yeah? A little bit, not physical tension, this is tension in a fight.
And on top of that, when someone's engaging, it comes from a point where I'm engaging to the point where I start to chase, and then at that point where I'm being defensive and offensive, I just go to I want to attack.
Yep.
And at that point is a good point where you take that punch step and capitalise.
Yeah.
The change in mentality of how the chase is occurring.
Yeah. So that